want to welcome you all to another episode of the Counterpoints podcast. I am one of your hosts, Everett Stevenson. I'm joined with my other co-hosts.
Hey everybody, I am one of your co-hosts, Samantha Adams.
Hey everybody, my name is Malik Foster. I'm another co-host for the Counterpoints podcast, and today we have a good show for you guys. Today we will be discussing whether we should keep or get rid of Black History Month. So let's dive into it, right? So Black History Month was originally founded by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. It started to become a discussion back in the 1920s, which led to Negro History Week. And the whole point of Negro History Week by Carter G. Woodson was to implement Black history into public schools, colleges, and universities, into the education system so people could take Black history as a serious course of study. Also, that eventually led to Black History Month, implemented in 1976 by President Ford. And the reason why that was chosen was because of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass's birthdays. It's usually Negro History Week was usually celebrated the second week.
Yeah, I have a quick little clip that will go over all of that if you want.
Okay, you have a clip, so
okay.
Sam will share a clip. I just wanted to give everybody a brief synopsis of everything, but let's listen to the clip.
But thought to yourself, America was just being petty and gave us the shortest month of the year. Well, here's the truth. Black History Month was originally Black History Week. It was started by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Dr. Carter G. Woodson started Black History Week because Black youth were not being taught their true history in elementary and secondary schools. Originally only celebrated during the second week of February, Dr. Woodson chose that month because Frederick Douglass, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington celebrated their birthdays during February, and at the time, the most important events concerning the Black race occurred during that month. And with the support of President Gerald Ford, Black History Week officially became Black History Month in 1976. Black Lives Matter, y'all, all year. Have you ever...
There you go. So that's the clip. You want to go ahead and finish what you were saying, Malik?
Yeah, sorry, the volume was low there. I can hear now. Basically what in the clip, that's what I was going over. Just the intentions behind Black History Month was really to focus on adding Black history into the curriculum. And I know we're going to get into a little bit later more about the arguments for and against it, for keeping Black History Month and for against it, because I know that a lot of people around the world agree that Black History Month, even when it comes to Americans, right, just here in the United States, it's more than just a month, right? Black History is more than just a month. So, y'all guys have any thoughts or any other facts you want to add into Black History?
Oh, no. From the origination, I think to just pop off the conversation, is one that I think that when we talk about this topic of, should it be longer than a month, I think we have the chance to look at how it originated when it started as just a week, then went to a month in like the 70s, and to now, there's been a lot of great things that happened in Black history prior to the naming of Black History Month. And even since then, there's been other things that have been amazing that happened within our community as well. So I do understand the sentiments of, there's no longer a need to have Black History Month for itself, because it should be celebrated all year long, in recognition to all of the achievements that are done throughout. And so I understand the viewpoint of both sides of this argument. And I can see where it developed to, and also the progression that people are looking for have it go towards.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the time frame in which Black History Month was established, I don't want to say created, but established, it makes sense in that time, right? Because in that time, there was still, schools were still desegregated. people were still fighting Jim Crow. There were still people sitting in backs of buses and things like that. You know what I mean? So it was important to try to find ways to teach people about, especially Black people, about their own heritage, and white people about the heritage of Black people. And just so we can just remember where we came from. Problem is also too, in that time, there was a whole lot of racism. So it was like people didn't want to hear it. And not only did people not want to hear it, they didn't want, like, racist white families did not want to teach their didn't want to teach their children about Black history. But I'm sorry, and Black people didn't always necessarily know their history, because remember, you know, during slavery, we were robbed of our ability to know more and more about where we came from, who we were, and things like that. So, I mean, I get the importance of having Black history, but there's definitely a flip side argument to it. It's 2022, right? So the question is, do we even need it at this point? Is Black history something we need to separate out from American history, or should it be included, right? Morgan Freeman did a clip on 60 Minutes a number of years ago. I'm going to show that clip right now. Hang on just a second. Can you guys see my screen? Whoops.
Yeah, yes, we can see your screen.
If I could just get this thing to open. There we go. Here it is. Let me know if you can hear it. Nope, you can't hear it, right?
Just hit the microphone button over there.
Okay. There we go.
Black History Month you find ridiculous. Why? You're going to relegate my history to a month? Oh, come on. What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? Well, come on, tell me. Well, I'm Jewish. Okay, which month is Jewish History Month? There isn't one. Oh, why not? Do you want one? No, I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history. Black history.
So that was Morgan Freeman's take on it. And there's a lot of people that share that view. You know, you don't, and he made a very good point, like, you don't, there might be Hispanic Heritage Month, but it's not Hispanic History Month, or Czechoslovakian History Month, or Chinese History Month, or, you know, or shoot, just if you don't want to break it down to country, you could even talk about just nationality or race, because, you know, I mean, I believe we're all part of the human race unless you're from another planet. So that's one race. And so we're not talking, there's no White History Month or Jewish History Month. There's only Black History Month. And I get why that it exists, but at what point do we say it needs to be continued? I mean, it needs to be merged in with regular American History Month, especially too, when you start talking about critical race theory. When they're trying to get rid of critical race theory, the purpose of Black History Month was to teach about Black history, especially in schools as it relates to the educational system, like Malik said. But when you start talking about critical race theory and getting rid of that, not being able to talk about race and things like that in school, what's the point of Black History Month if you're not teaching about race? Like, Florida passed that law. I'm sure that there are other states that will do so as well. So,
Texas as well.
Yeah, see what I'm saying? So how are you even, and Texas got some damn nerve, right? Because when you talk about Juneteenth, that's a whole holiday. And the reason why Juneteenth is even celebrated is because in Galveston, Texas, they were the last people to find out slavery had been abolished. And that was years later. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, that's a part of Texas history, let alone Black history, you know, and I think that it's very frustrating to me when you try to just separate out Black history, like we're not Americans, like we're not, like we didn't build this country, like half the things that you have floating around in this country that you use on a day-to-day basis were not as a result of the Black mind or the black person's work, their inventions and things like that. Like, there's so many things that we've contributed to American society. I don't think that we need to be relegated to just a month, and it shouldn't just be a conversation only about slavery and Jim Crow and Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King. Even though those things are a part of our history, Black history is very robust. It's very, very robust. And I think that
Well,
it's
I wanted to jump in there real quick and talk about some of those inventions real fast, like because like we said, it was the yellow light. We had the cotton gin. We also have, excuse me, some patents within the railroad, the first refrigerated trucks. So there's a few things that were created by African Americans all the time. Man, C.J. Walker with the pressing iron and hair grease. There's things that occur. Super Soaker was one of the more modern day ones that, as a kid, that was when I held the heart. So finding out that was something that was created by a Black man. There's a lot of inventions that came that extend beyond just, entertainment and things of that nature. And I just want to kind of spread light and give some foundation to some of those.
Yeah, so in reference to Morgan Freeman's clip, so the arguments against having a Black History Month or getting rid of it, I understand his sentiments completely because, why do we have to have a Black History Month if, other groups don't have a History Month, right? Like he was saying, right? Because the whole purpose of having the Negro History Week, that was the first original intention, was to promote educating others and educating Blacks and everybody about Black American history, right, here in this country, and to implement it into public schools and universities. Eventually, it was implemented. Kent State University being one of the first to implement it in their school system, right, and in the curriculum. Also, Morgan Freeman, he made a good point, right? He made me think about, how this country, we're so isolated. Everything's segregated. Everything's about race, right? It's capitalistic, true. It's about who has money, but it also has that underlying point of the racism too. Like, it's not just about money or class, it's also about race. So that what makes this country kind of unique compared to a lot of the other ones. I know there's other countries that are like that as well, that discriminate based on maybe ethnic groups or stuff like that. But this country, that's what this country was founded upon, like ever since it started, right? Inception, right? There's been slaves here. I know they always give us the story about the pilgrims and stuff like that, but there were people already here, and eventually, they tried to, take advantage of them. So it's always, that's the history of this country, taking advantage of other people, belittling other people's accomplishments and achievements, and that's what's happened, right? So the main point here I'm trying to make is that this whole getting rid of Black History Month will lead us to more of a even playing field. It's like we don't need a Black History month anymore. We don't need the symbolic gesture. We just need, to have it taught in schools, like Sam was saying about the critical race theory, how they're trying to essentially get rid of a portion of Black history, American history, right? People have to deal with the truth, right? They don't want to deal with the truth. They just want to make it up, like the whatever I say so history. That's not what happened. Whatever you said did not happen. It's what happened is what happened, not what you said happened.
Well,
So,
yeah, that's one of the things that they always say is that goes with the victors, right? Like, is you get to tell how history was sold, and you could wipe off the telling of other things. And so I'm also willing to challenge to say that not only does Black history should it not only be not relegated to just a month, but it's also something that should be as well taught within our homes. I'm always going to continue to advocate that, the home is the biggest place in which, education and character is built. So I think, when we talk about children having to be raised and how, the legacy and the traditions and the greatness of people within our past can continue to be told, it's going to have to be occurring in that realm, because as we see society is trying to not include that if it feels as though that they may make other individuals feel bad about the decisions that their ancestors may have made. And I
Right.
think, you can't dim one person's light just to, to try to like lock their shine by
Right.
dimming the light because you don't want it to expose, your house or things that occurred in it. And so that's why I feel like, that's something that I think that we have to just one teach that in the home, and then also we ask that like Sam said, that it can continue to be taught within either the books or actually in lessons. And if that's the case, that it just becomes part of the study and not necessarily a monthly type of situation.
First off, I was going to say something to what Malik said. There's no alternative facts in history, right? There just aren't. Although what people do is they try to scrub portions of the facts so that by the time it gets to us, it's skewed to benefit whomever the winner is, right? Or whoever wants us to learn whatever it is that they want us to learn. And so it's important for us to make sure we do our own research and to learn, like E said, what happened, the things that happened, and understanding that it's not just like one-sided, and it not only is it not one-sided, like it's so much more to it. Another analogy that came to mind when E was saying, you shouldn't be dimming your other people's light so that you can make yours shine or whatever. It's like if your house is dirty, right? And your neighbor's house is not dirty, but it needs to be cleaned up a little bit. Don't keep focusing on what's going on in your neighbor's house when you need to clean your own. And when I say that, it's like when you're talking about Black history and critical race theory and all that, the way you clean your house is to teach about the things that happen, right? Because nobody's gonna hold you specifically to what somebody your great-great-grandpappy did. You know what I mean? Because you didn't do it. Just like I wasn't a slave, so I can't be mad at my white counterparts because of something that their ancestors did to my ancestors, especially when the goal is to A, educate, and B. The reason why there's that problem and why there's a victimization amongst Black people is because we're still being oppressed today. If there was no more oppression and we were on that even playing field, then the victimization would look quite ridiculous. I mean, it looks ridiculous to some people now, but the truth is it would look quite ridiculous if wrongs were righted, if we weren't continuously being systematically and systemically oppressed. So, once you fix those types of issues, then it's easier to say, all right, cool, then we're on this even playing field. You don't just whitewash history. You don't, I mean, you could try, but the facts are always going to be there. It's like the dinosaurs, right? That doesn't have anything to do with race or even people. The dinosaurs. Just because some people don't believe dinosaurs existed, that's their business. But when you find bones of dinosaurs, you know that they existed. No matter if a meteor hit or whatever happened to them, they were all dead. And we know that they existed because you find bones. There's always going to be evidence of that history. I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make. And so I think that it's important to understand that, like, we shouldn't have to be relegated to a month. And I get why, Black History Week came about, but we shouldn't have even had to have been relegated to a week. I get why, like I said, but here we are, it's 2022. Everything is on the internet. You can find anything that you want to know on the internet, whether it's a truth or a lie, but the information is there. And it's important for us to make sure that we remain educated and knowing what happened in American history so that we can become a better nation. We can't keep expecting to be better if we continue to put everybody in a box, whether it be based on class, like Malik said, or race, or gender, or whatever. At the end of the day, we're all people walking around on this earth that we have to share. And it doesn't make sense to have to keep relegating individuals into certain spaces when, I mean, granted, Black people are dope. I love being Black. You know what I'm saying? But I also know how resilient we are, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we should be robbed of who we are in order to show that resilience. You know, life is hard enough.
I want to jump in here too and just say, like, in regards to, should it be relegated to just this month? I think that, again, one of the things that I'm seeing is the issue with this is not just saying that it's only for the month, because also I feel like it's almost we're a situation in which we, for this 1 month, we kind of put out some decorations. We kind of, hey, okay, cool. We spew out a few facts real quick, and then we go on about our days for the rest of the year. And that's why I feel like it's something that needs to be honored and recognized in all points. And I think another part about it is as well, when we talk about that history, that we need to recognize, which is something that I think we want to get into in a little bit as well, was just recognizing that history doesn't necessarily have to require it to be something that took place a long time, more than 5-10 years ago. Anytime that there may be a record broken or some type of innovation or something that occurred, I think that is considered to be history. And so we should recognize that as well, especially from those who are living. And that was one of the viewpoints that we've seen some people bring up. And one of the most controversial persons would be Kanye, to say, we need to talk about that, or talk about Black Future Month, as he said. Also, I guess, promoting the album, as well as just stating in general how we should talk about how people are changing things, not only just in the past, but how people may be setting up foundations to set a foundation for things to move forward in the future, and how we should recognize those individuals who are trying to break ground and who are trying to make changes that's going to truly affect, society from now and later.
Right. When it comes to this regulation of Black History Month, I was just thinking about a point that I know, like, media likes to make, and everybody kind of highlights. When there's the first Black person to do something, why does it always have to be the first Black person, right? First Black American to do this, the first Black person to do that. When a white person does it, it's just like the first person to do it. Like, so I don't like that. It's always like they highlight us when we, like, say if somebody Black graduates from Harvard, like, there's other schools Black people have done some of these same things, but it's just because it's Harvard, it's important, right? Even though some of these institutions, like these Ivy League schools, have a history of racism, right? That's where affirmative action came to play, right? And other laws and legislation to help Black people have equal opportunity for the same educational opportunities as other Americans have in this country. Even though that affirmative action has been known to benefit white women even more so, and other groups even more so than Black people, who was its original intention. I'm not saying that other groups don't deserve opportunities. It's just that every time Black people are given something, it has to be included into everybody else. Like, for example, if Black people are getting mistreated, it's always Black and minorities. So they always want to include us with other groups to as benefits, right? Anytime they want to give us any type of benefits, it has to be included and jumbled up into a group. But when, say, for example, the Jewish community, right? The Jewish community can get their benefits, right, from Holocaust, other things that may have happened to them, or any discrimination exclusively, right? But when it comes to us, any discrimination happens, do we get our benefits alone? No, they want to include everybody. So I don't think that's fair. I don't really like that. I'm all for everybody getting their benefits and, their justice. But when it comes to us, we are always included with other people, or, we're not separated at all. Like, they separate us, they separate us totally. We're not just regular Americans in this country, right? We're always the first to do something, first Black people to do this, the first Black people. And it's like a subtle racism behind that.
I'm gonna push back on this a little bit too, though, guys, because I think that, like, there has to be some type of recognition when those are, because like that's why I was just saying, like when you are initially one of the first people to break down that, and if it's an institution that does have, you know, a history of you know, not allowing individuals like yourself to be a part of it, and you're able to break down those barriers, or you're able to penetrate that or pierce that veil, as we like to say sometimes. Well, not in that context, but nonetheless, you then at that regards, you should be able to be recognized for your accomplishments for what you're doing. Now, I think that from the standpoint, if we're making it just saying like, hey, you know, just say such and such graduated and give them their just credits from that, as opposed to saying that they were just the first Black to do something, because it kind of just gets this whole like, you know, we want to cheer for them and say, okay, great, but also like it also kind of like calls out to almost you guys are. I just want to make sure I'm understanding this straight. You guys are arguing that like when you relegate it to just saying here's a Black person that does this, you think that it's almost lessening it because it's like you're putting that title on top of the accomplishment. Is that the statement that we're making, or is it something different?
What I'm saying is that when Black people do something that maybe other Black people have done at another school, for example, like say if you're the first Black to graduate with a microbiology degree at a Ivy League, right? There's other Blacks who have done that. They just didn't go to that Ivy League school. Like, why do we need to highlight that? What if a white person, do we highlight the first white person that graduated from the HBCU with a degree? No, we don't do that. So I feel like there's certain subtle racism behind when you're highlighting the first Black person to do this, but when there's another group is just the first person to do this, right? Like, is it a white American does it? It's just the first person to do it. So it's like there's no racism behind it. It's just recognizing, hey, you're the first person to ever do this. Why can't we just get rid of it? Like, there's no more first Black person to do anything.
But what if that's because a lot of the times the things that we may be looking to accomplish have already been accomplished by others who held that field? You feel what I'm saying? Like, or who held that spot? You feel?
Because there's racial reasons why we haven't accomplished certain things, especially at certain schools when it comes to the education, because that was the whole purpose of the Black History Month, is the education. That's why I'm stressing more so the education stuff.
Right, but just to add a little bit of pushback, I think the purpose is because those institutions have been historically known to have practicing racism. Not all of them, but that goes to systemic racism that I was talking about earlier. And so I think highlighting that is to almost show, hey, we may have been known to have effectuated systemic racism here at this institution, but we're making things change. We're changing because now we have so-and-so who just was the first Black person to graduate with a whatever major, or however you want to, do it. I think it's to show the progression and the barriers that have been broken despite systemic racism, right? So, I mean, I get why it's frustrating, but at the same time, I think the purpose for that is that if we were in a utopian state and there was no systemic racism and there was no systematic racism, then yeah, absolutely, it doesn't make any sense. Who cares? Like you said, if Bob graduated from Morehouse, who gives a damn, right? That's just like, why does it matter if Tyrone got his law degree from Yale and he was the first Black one to do it? Who cares? Like, yeah, it matters. It's important. It doesn't mean that you kind of downplay the accomplishments of those people, but they weren't. Most people, when they participate in that and they become the first Black person to do anything, they're not doing it to become the first Black person to do it. Most people,
right?
Most of the time, they're doing it because they want to do it. They want to be a doctor. They want to be a lawyer. They want to be a microbiologist. They just want to participate in whatever that activity is, and it just so happens that they're Black. And I think, I mean, is it important to highlight? I think in some terms, yes, because then you can see that it's possible. Like when you talk about President Obama, regardless if you believe that he was Black, even though he was biracial, or regardless if you believe he was a good president, he was the first president that we had that looked like us. You know what I'm saying? And it was in a time when nobody that looked like us ever believed that they would see it in their lifetime. So, you know, and
Yeah, I'm gonna say Barack Obama's Black.
I mean, you are, but there are people that don't. They're like, he's
Is he
biracial.
a descendant of American slave? That I think that's debatable. That part's debatable.
That
But he's
part is
Black.
not debatable because he is not a descendant of an American slave. His father was African and his mother was
Yeah,
white. You know?
exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like he's Black, but he's
Doesn't mean
not.
he's not Black. Exactly. That's like saying
Yeah.
just 'cause somebody's from Africa, they're not Black. It doesn't even make sense. But you know, I mean, that's my pushback to that argument.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was just gonna say I understand it. I just I see it a little differently, but I understand why people highlight the first, right? So that's like the arguments for keeping Black History Month, like the symbolism, the recognition, you know, the highlighting, you know, awarding people for their accomplishments and hard work. I'm just saying that I think we're past that, right? I'm saying that, you know, if we want to be treated as equals, Black Americans, I think we just need to be on the same level as, say, the white Americans. Like, you're just the first person to do it. If you're not, that's okay. We still recognize your achievement. You did a good job, but there's no need to be like you're the first Black person anymore. I think we've moved past that subtle racisms, that little symbolism, the tokenism. I think we need to move past that stuff. That's why I want to say that Black history is more than a month, and I think we should get rid of it. But I understand the arguments for keeping it, the symbolism, the celebration, recognizing the achievements, even though we can do it all the time throughout every year through the school systems by teaching the youth and, you know, celebrating everybody, right? Because just like Morgan Freeman said, there's no Jewish History Month, there's no White History Month, so we need to get to that level. And then I think we're really moving forward as a people.
Well, for me personally, I think on this issue, to Malik's point, yeah, I do think that we need to continue to move forward, but I don't necessarily mean that we need to necessarily get rid of Black History Month. I think, you know, while yes, we don't necessarily maybe need to acknowledge every accolade that's accomplished by a person, whether it's by their gender or sex in particular, excuse me, their race or gender. I do think that we should just recognize them holding the position that they hold and giving them their respect, so that we can see everyone on that playing field. But as well as I do think that we need to keep this Black History Month though, because as we see a lot of things, and we talked about it earlier, like critical race theory, a lot of things are being taken, a lot of things are being removed, and when things get removed, a lot of times they get forgotten. And so I don't want to see that happen from one of the small things that we do have, that we get too emboldened in saying like, oh, well, you know, I'm here, treat me as an equal, knowing that we're one, not on that same playing field, and two, that it's day by day, there's an attack on trying not to continue to spread this information. So when you look at it like that, you know, I feel like no, we need to keep it there so that, you know, kids don't grow up, you know, a couple generations from now and think that there's no that they didn't know the greatness that was within them. So that's why I advocate for it. And I wanted to say that and let that be what it was going to be as far as my last thoughts on the topic. I think it needs to continue, and it also needs to be expanded to something like either, you know, we do something once a week, or people like recognize, or as those accomplishments occurred, we just say, hey, you know, on this day, X, Y, and Z did A, B, and C. You know, that way we can continue to keep the greatness alive, continue to honor people as the days go by, because things happen all the time. And we should be able to recognize those things all the time.
Yeah. So I think until we are able to get to a place where we can expect Black history to be considered a part of American history, then it's necessary to keep Black History Month. I don't think that it's good that we have to relegate ourselves to a month. I do think that when they teach history, they should teach it in chronology. If you teach history in chronology, right, and then you're going to just automatically learn about Black people. And maybe one month, instead of having Black History Month, you have Inventor Month. And then you get to learn about all the inventors, no matter if they're Black, yellow, purple, green, or orange, right? And so I think that there's different ways that the school curriculum can be set up in order to include Black folks without it being about separating us and only teaching about the three things that they always teach about during the month of February, which is slavery, Jim Crow, or four things. Every now and then you get a couple people thrown in there like Marcus Garvey. You know what I mean? Maybe a Malcolm X if the school doesn't think he's too radical, right? But you get to learn more about it and teach about the facts as opposed to teaching about opinions, right? Like teach about the Black Panther Party. I didn't know anything about the Black Panther Party until after I graduated from law school, right? And that was because I said, I want to know more. So I went and learned. I went and got the information and educated myself about it. So, I think that it's important to just teach the history, just teach it. And then number one, you'll see us become a greater society and just do better. But until that happens, we're gonna have to stick with keeping the Black History Month, because there are too many powerful people that don't want to see any type of history relating to Black people, race, or whatever being taught in schools due to their own fragility and guilt and shame, or even because they don't want to lose that edge that they believe that they have. So I think that it's important to just continue to keep it alive, keep it going until we get to that place. That's just my opinion about it, and that's my final thought on it. Before we get into the motivational minute, we have another thing that we have decided to start doing here at the Counterpoise podcast, and that's to introduce a book of the month. I have a screenshot of our book of the month, and it is called The Destruction of Black Civilization. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
It's called The Destruction of Black Civilization, Great Issues of Black Race from 4500 BC to 2000 AD. It's written by Chancellor Williams. You also can listen to the audiobook. I listened to it on YouTube. And it talks a lot about Black history. And when I say Black history, I'm not talking only here in America. I'm talking all the way back to Africa, back when Africa had dynasties. And it teaches a lot about who we are and how far we've come. Now, granted, it goes up to the year 2000. That was 22 years ago. And it may feel like it was a lifetime ago, but it wasn't. It really wasn't that long ago. So, you guys should definitely check that book out. It's a fantastic book. It's something that should be in everybody's repertoire, especially when they want to know more about their heritage, who they are, and who they come from when they're Black. And if they're white, it should be for their own edification. Not for nothing, it also talks a lot about white history as well. And when I say white history, I mean over in Europe, over in Asia, because it's not even just about Europeans, right? It's also about Asians and things like that, and all of the things that took place in Africa and how we interacted with other nations, and how we ended up where we are today. It gives a great outlook. So definitely go check that book out. Again, it's called The Destruction of Black Civilization, from 45 BC to 2000 AD by Chancellor Williams. So that's my final thought. That's the book of the month. And I know Malik has some other stuff for us.
Yes, I got the motivational minute for us. I have a quote here by Marcus Garvey. People without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. So I feel like that really spoke to the topic of the day. Because if you don't know your history, it's really hard to correct the mistakes of the past and move forward, right? Because we learn from history, just even as individuals, as cultural groups, ethnic groups, just as people, period. We learn from the mistakes of the past and how to correct it and move forward in the future. And that's how we grow as just humans in general. And I think that really speaks to us as Black Americans here in this country that, you know, I think we need to find ways to move forward by looking into the past and how we can correct those mistakes and move forward from it, and even try to repair some of the harms and injustices that happened in the past as well to see where we went wrong. So that's the motivational minute. I also have the Black Business of the Month that I want to highlight. Here, let me share my screen to show you guys. All right, so this is the Mad Millionaire here. She teaches about different income streams. She has a successful tour business. She's a fellow YouTuber. She also teaches about mental health as well. Because when you're trying to build wealth, it can be very stressful and stuff like that. So she definitely discusses that. And the other part I wanted to share with her is that she has this group called the Global Wealth Network that I'm in. So she talks about different stuff. She's based out in Georgia. She talks about different projects going on in the Atlanta area, estate planning, all kinds of different business stuff and business advice. So essentially like a business consultant. So for your business services and needs, reach out to her, check out her YouTube content. Hopefully she can be a benefit to you and your life and your loved ones so you can grow wealth. Because that's where some of this stuff starts. If you have wealth, you have health, that's all you need. So that's what I have for you guys for the Black Business of the Month.
Okay, everybody. So thank you so much for tuning in with us. We really appreciate it. We love y'all for that. When you want to check us out, this right here, this episode is going to be posted to our YouTube page on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Also, too, please make sure you tap in with us every Wednesday at 8:30 on Instagram for our What's Up Wednesday. And you can go ahead and make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. You can follow us on YouTube at Counterpoise Podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and all that good stuff. Also, too, you can follow us on Instagram at Counterpoise Podcast and on Facebook at Counterpoise Podcast, both the person and the page. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram at Samantha. What is it? Samantha Counterpoise. What is it? I forgot my thing that fast. It's Samantha _counterpoise. Oh no, it's Samantha ESQ _counterpoise. That's what it is. Sorry, I got too many pages. So it's Samantha ESQ _counterpoise on Instagram, and on Facebook it's Samantha ESQ _counterpoise. Guys, you guys want to go ahead and provide your socials?
Yeah, you guys will see my socials down in the box. So CP _EV, as well as catch me on my personal at Bad Guy 2104.
Yeah, likewise, you'll catch my socials at the end, our outro, but my personal is Malik M. Foster on all social media handles, and my Counterpoise one is Malik _Counterpoise. So thank you guys for watching. Appreciate, like, comment, share. If you have any questions or you want us to talk about a different topic, just shoot us an inbox, DM, contact us, and we'll get back to you. Thank you.
All right.
All right, guys. Peace.